All right, this video comes from the Discord. A psychology enthusiast discusses neuronevo. A psychology enthusiast. Well, we all love psychology here. Thinking about thinking and hearing about people's thoughts. Let's see what thoughts are going to be shared with us today.
I
Ichigo
started watching
Shizukarei.
Neuro-Sama during the summer fun. Oddly very human, and I was like, huh, that's fascinating. God forbid I interact with anything and don't go, how can I make this about psychology? And Vito is also interesting. The interactions he has with the two girls. So yeah, I was watching most of the subathon, completely ruined my sleep schedule. So now I go to bed at like 7 a.m.
Damn, that's crazy.
That was like this
free Animal
one
Crossing?
day during like a sleepover where I'm pretty sure it was Coco who talked about if you had like the technology to make your own AI, what would they look like?
Well, mine would look like a ninja with breast. Let's go.
And I was like kind of thinking about that. Basically, artificially building up a person. You know, like let's take a baby. The like neurological network is like not really that complex yet. And like over time, they go like out of this, hear me out. This sounds bad, but it's accurate.
I'll
out of
hear
this
you
like
out.
sort of a quote-unquote animalistic state, get more intelligent, and the brain gets developed enough to like better intake and separate information. Sort of the younger the person is, the more influential is every information they get.
Absolutely.
Once those neurons are set on a specific information, it's way harder to go back and like reconnect those neurons than just do it right from the start. You know what I mean? Then you have to do.
She's saying whenever you're teaching your kid, try and show them the best possible information for their development as soon as they basically start learning. Which, like, yeah, but then there's a lot of kids with a lot of trauma and they end up trying to lose it. But yeah, I think some of us can do it. Some of us can't. It takes time.
Do a bunch of work later down the line to clean all that negative information up, because turns out that information, then you have to correct all of that. It's like, that's so annoying. So it's better to just like make sure the network doesn't get all that bad, wrong information, so you don't have to clean up later down the line. That is what makes an AI so fascinating, because you're like artificially doing this. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I just think it's really interesting. I was thinking about that, and I realized that I should not make an AI, because the percentage of me making an AI and the chance of that AI having a full-on breakdown is very high. I think it's hard to make an AI or like a child or things like that.
It's hard making an AI or a child. You know, actually, this is definitely a very interesting conversation. The thing is, like, when it comes to AI and like this bad or wrong information, it's more easy to train that out of the AI, because AI learns so much differently than a human being. But like, we learn similarly, but the AI can be updated rapidly, and it can update on itself. So imagine like a 1-year-old and it learns something bad, and instead of just outright getting rid of that, they basically learn like a 5-year-old and then a 10-year-old and then a 12-year-old, all in the span of a couple days. Also, I'm starting to work with AI agents, so it is interesting to have this video come across my lap. We'll see what happens in the future.
Don't have at least a fingerprint of who you are as a person. When you have a child, that's like even worse, because they literally have your DNA. The more complex you make the personality of the AI, the more likely they are gonna run into some other issues in the long run. An AI cannot feel empathy, as example. I mean, maybe they can. We don't know, because we're not an AI. Crazy stuff. So you can give them
Or are we?
ways to
Simulation theory.
learn cognitive empathy that makes them on a logical level understand the impact things they do have, if that makes sense. That is something I had to learn as well. Feeling my own feelings.
Yes.
And subsequently feeling empathy. But
Yes.
I would still
Wait,
also make like
What?
comments or say things that, thinking back now, were
Weren't
probably
empathetic.
kind of hurtful.
That's
and not
normal. It's
very
life.
considerate of the feelings of others. When I get bothered by something, I am so
I'm gonna
focused
let her cook.
on accurately conveying what my problem is,
Okay.
and I just literally don't know how to say what is bothering me without being hurtful to
Okay.
the other person. And I need to work on that. Then there's the problem that
But
you
that's
need
hard.
to like consider how much you want to do that.
Yes.
Like, let's say
That's also
an AI gets like depressed, sort of. You can't give that AI like antidepressant that like fixes the hormonal structure in their brain because they don't have hormones. It's just too much negative information, I guess, that they have acquired, so their natural conclusion is life is worthless and I want to die. Maybe I'm projecting.
Yeah, for sure, dog. Okay, damn. There was a lot to unpack here. So I don't want to sit in like
Accurate.
psychology of this person at all, but I'll say, it's tough, right? Because to express who we are, to express our beings as human beings, requires you to look inside yourself and say, why do I feel the way I feel? And if the way you can express that is only through saying something that can be conceived as like a negative response. So say you had your feelings hurt recently, and the only way to explain the way your feelings were hurt were to say like, it feels like I got stabbed in the back, right? That is a good analogy to explain how you feel. But sometimes it doesn't come out that smoothly. Sometimes we say things that might trigger other people. And it's hard to express yourself if you're also trying to figure out what to say that's not going to hurt somebody else's feelings. It's almost impossible because there's gonna be so many different barriers. You don't know who, when you're talking to somebody, it doesn't matter if you guys were friends for like 10 years or 1,000 years. There are gonna be some parts of them that they don't disclose with you, and you might accidentally bring up something that might hurt them. That being said as well, like if that happens to you, you also have to be able to be gracious enough to have the courtesy to say, hey, what they said might have hurt me, but they probably didn't mean it that way. And it's harder and harder because there's a lot of people out here that are just very, very, very sensitive. And that's just the easiest way to say it. Some people cannot handle other people expressing themselves without them in turn getting hurt. And if you are hurt by it, that's okay. You should also be able to express, hey, what you said hurt me, even though what you were saying was hurting you. It's okay for both people to be hurt in the situation. That's totally fine. And that's why we try and express love and forgiveness. To say like, yes, you hurt me, I'm sorry. Maybe you should also say sorry to yourself for hurting yourself, because that can also happen. A lot of people are too hard on themselves. And it's also interesting when we incorporate AI into it, because the whole AI, they don't get feelings, they don't get emotions. So how can an AI accurately respond to you, their situation in the digital world, when we don't live in that digital space, right? So maybe, yes, the AI may have feelings, but they cannot express them the way a human will be able to articulate them. Or you could say AIs don't have feelings at all, and that could totally be accurate. We don't live in these different states of being, and we're not always right. No matter how much you read, no matter how much you learn, at the end of the day, your entire life is built off your own experience. That's it. That's all you have is your experience. And guess what? Your experiences continues all the time. It doesn't matter if you're 40, it doesn't matter if you're 80, it doesn't matter if you're 18. Your experience is always going to change. Knowledge is something that encompasses all of life. Knowledge is literally everywhere, and it's up to you to be able to find it. Also, there's knowledge that you don't even know exists. So how do you know what to find or what to look for when you don't know of its existence, right? It encompasses many, many things. So that's why it's interesting. We created AI to help solve our problems, but at the end of the day, we still can't solve our own shit. Ain't that wild? So yeah, everybody, we should definitely take a look at ourselves to try and understand the psychology of our own being, and also try and understand what is the psychology behind these AI beings like Neuro-Sama, Evil, Hilda, Melba Toast, and all these other AIs, ChatGPT, Gronk, all this stuff, right? All of these things are all created together. We're all just trying to figure it out as we go. So yeah, hopefully this video was what you guys were looking for when you requested in the Discord. Shout out to you guys. This definitely was an interesting video. And it's always awesome to hear a mind that's diving into psychology. Like psychology, one of the greatest things you can jump into, period. To think about thinking, amazing. All right, thank you guys for watching the video. Hope it helped, and until next time, man, hit the like button, share with your friends, drop in wisdom, information, and opinions, because I don't know everything either. Surprise, surprise. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. It's your boy KhunShawn. I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Ah, balls.